Okay, a little something from Screen Rant. Star Trek Picard could be just what, can unite Star Trek divided fandom. Yeah, we'll see about that. Start off here. Star Trek Picard could be just what the Star Trek franchise needs to unite a divided fandom. Over the last few years, the concept of fandom has gone through something of an unfortunate transformation. Fandom was once seen as a participatory culture in which fans celebrated their love of a franchise. Now it's become an expression of ownership, with fans determined to shape the franchise they love and railing against creatives whose decisions they disagree with. Well, one, they kind of go together, but also that's kind of reaching to it, Sometimes they have a point, but on other occasions it just gets downright nasty. Well, when the feel are being ignored, yeah, it will get nasty. We're trying to... Here. Take the Star Wars franchise, for example. The release of Star Wars The Last Jedi provoked a vocal backlash among some parts of the fandom, in large part because it didn't line up with stories and theories fans... No, it provoked a vocal backlash because it was a bad movie. It sucked. It undermined the entire... No matter what... I had no theories going into this thing. I didn't care. I don't do that kind of thing. Because it undermined the whole thing, and Rian Johnson and all his arrogant idiocy just, I'm going to do what I want, and the hell with what has to come after him. You kind of remind... This is part of you're the middle chapter in a trilogy. You need to leave something on the table for the guy who follows after you. That's why Colin Trevorrow quit. Because a part of what he was going to do involved Luke being alive. And then do a fan theories. Yeah. Nearly 50% of the backlash was really political trolling. No, it was not political trolling. It was response to political trolling being shoved into these franchises. Admiral gender studies, We didn't invent that. That was forced on us, okay? Every thing, the women were omnipotent and everything, and all the men were idiots, okay? From Luke on down, okay? And Kelly Marie Tran was hounded off social media. No, she wasn't. In this age where you can screenshot everything, there is not one blessed tweet that has surfaced, bullying her off the fan. In fact, in her own op-ed, title notwithstanding, she does not cite one thing about social media driving her away, and the fans driving her away from social media. She rails against the industry, trying to drive her into some little pigeonhole and typecasting her, as, the dragon lady or hair salon, whatever, but nothing about the fans. No, charge rejected. I reject your premise, okay? All right, and the upcoming Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is generally perceived as something of a course correction attempt to repair a damaged fan. It's damage control, big time. And the leaks we're hearing are not good either. They're flailing around. Okay, compared to Star Wars, the Star Trek fandom is fairly pedestrian and well-behaved, which makes sense. The concept of diversity was baked into the franchise by Gene Roddenberry himself. And that's really the end of it right there. Anyone who dares to lecture us, of all fans, about diversity needs to be at their head slapped. Okay? Meaning it lacks political dimension. No, there's always been a political dimension to it, but it's never been ham-fisted and shoved down. You must think this way or you're a bad person. In fact, Star Trek has always made a point of presenting both sides and making you think. That's why there is, sorry Marina Sirtis, a very large contingent of hardcore conservative Star Trek fans. Wrap your head around that for a while, okay? Okay, for all that's the case, though, the Star Trek fandom has its own divisions, and Star Trek Picard could well be the solution, or could be one that makes it even worse. Okay, the problems began with J.J. Abrams' reboot of the Star Trek franchise, and in a sense represented competing visions of just what Star Trek really is. Yeah, here we're going to get to another part of it here. Abrams wasn't a natural fan of the franchise, finding it something of a turnoff when he was a kid. Growing up, I thought, honestly, I couldn't get into it, he admitted in an interview on Daily Show. My friends loved it. I would try. I would watch episodes, but it always felt too philosophical to me. And they hired him anyway. That should have been, thank you, have a nice day, we'll find somebody else who actually is into this. So as a result, when Abrams was placed in charge of Star Trek, he attempted to reinvent the wheel. He tried to turn it into Star Wars. That's why the Enterprise suddenly mushroomed in size. And then when the next one he got, the Vengeance, that's your Super Star Destroyer envy right there. Sorry. there's a point where it's like, one of the things that hinges on the Star Trek technology is plausibility. And it's already pushed the breaking point when they have a ship the size of the JJ Prize being built on the surface and somehow hoisting that up in orbit. But then to follow that up with a ship that makes the Enterprise D look like a Tinker Toy, and that early in the timeline, beyond any and all, depictions of what the tech level was at. No, you've already, broken the sense of, the disbelief there, and you curled it up in a little ball and thrown it in the corner. Nobody can take it seriously at that point. And that's why Beyond just utterly failed, because nobody took the franchise seriously at that point. Okay, his Star Trek reboot was a lot less cerebral and a lot more action focused. Oh yeah, lots of boom boom explosions, and pew pew. Yeah, some fans weren't keen on the very idea of a Kelvin timeline, while others felt Abrams didn't even understand Roddenberry's vision, and constantly felt he was disrespecting it. Yeah, that's about it. He had no clue. He still has no clue. Okay. Discovery proved just as divisive as the Abrams reboot. Unlike the Abrams films, it purported to be a part of the main timeline, which made its grim, dark portrayal of the Federation and left a lot of fans furious. Still does. Worse still, the technology in Star Trek Discovery Season 1 seems so much more advanced than anything else seen in centuries later in Star Trek timeline. Still, Discovery Season 2 was... No, it wasn't. Pivoting away from the Klingon War, going to great lengths to write its... The thing is, okay, you can't unring a bell, okay? All the damage done in Season 1 was still there in Season 2. Nothing was changed. I'm sorry, but we will not talk of this ever again. That doesn't change the fact that you did it. They're not going to suddenly, turn into Luddites and throw away all the holograms and the advanced weapons just because, this was a bad thing. No. That doesn't work that way. And we know it doesn't work that way. And let's see. Casting Anson, And let's see. Casting Anson Mount is a hardcore Star Trek fan. Or at least a very ardent fan. And that's why I've tweeted him directly. He said, yeah, I'd love to see you back in the series because you're the only one who knew what the hell we were doing. Let's see. Fan remains divided, but the wounds feel as though they're beginning to heal. No, they're not. We just built up a tolerance for the pain. But those wounds are just as fresh as they were. Okay, Picard naturally appeals to the nostalgia factor. That brings us neatly to Star Trek Picard, which feels perfectly positioned to help unite this divided fandom once again. Or rip it asunder. On the one hand, the show is tailor-made to appeal to lovers of Star Trek Next Generation and even Star Trek Voyager, featuring Patrick Stewart as an older Captain Picard, Jerry Ryan returned to 79, and a massive number of returning guest star characters. Speaking at the Television Critics Association Summer Press Tour, CBS EVP of Original Content Julie McNamara suggested that the show would be very familiar in style to old-school Star Trek fans as well. In terms of the characters and the nature of the storytelling, Picard is probably more like Next Generation. I think tonally it's a little bit of hybrid, slower, more gentle, and more lyrical. It is more character-based. I think this is part of the de-Kurtzmanization of this part of the franchise. And again, too much of the rot is set in, I think. I think the best I can do is just keep it from spreading. Let's see. Nostalgia is a force to be reckoned with in modern fandom, and Star Trek Picard seems perfectly designed to appeal to it, or pander to it, depending on how it's handled. What's more, the show promises to cling to every core concept of Star Trek itself. The idea of looking to the future with hope. Really. Let's see. With the destruction of the Romulus? Jean-Luc Picard became a living symbol of that hope, a man who believed in the ideals of the Federation that would always strive for peace. The trailers for Star Trek Picard have suggested parts. Picard's faith in the Federation had been shaken, but they seem to suggest he's about to start a journey to regain his moral core. Yep. We shall see. It's still too early to say. I mean, they were flaying around just to get that trailer put together or something that wouldn't be laughed out of the hall. So. At the same time, Star Trek Picard promised to appeal to new viewers as well, according to Deadline. CBS Chief Executive David Nevins recently confirmed that they aim to expand Star Trek's legacy brand to reach younger viewers. I started watching Star Trek when I was a toddler. Okay, I was 2.5 when the show premiered. My dad was watching, and I was there right next to him. That's why I have no first Star Trek moment. I can say, oh, this is when I found. No, it's always been there. When I was able to finally form senses, I already knew what Star Trek was. We got that, the first Enterprise model. It was a long box one, but no lights. But I knew what it was. I knew damn what it was. I know what Now, this is before the animated series started. It's just like maybe 72 when we got the thing, and the animated series didn't start till like 73. So I already had a model of the Enterprise before the show. We're trying to do right now is with Star Trek is build that brand. How about build a good show first, and the brand will follow? Have you thought about that, David? We wanted to get younger and more relevant to people. This presumably means embracing the message of social relevance that we're core to. I tell you what. I was thinking about the other day when I was waiting at a doctor's appointment for Steph to get her final evaluation and they finally ripped off that damn collar. And lady, she sits down with her little kid, little baby, type, and doing the wheels on the bus go around, the little kid songs. I did not grow up with those idiotic songs. I mean, I'd be exposed to them like at school. But at home, we didn't do that crap. I was watching grown-up TV. I wasn't watching, they didn't have Teletubbies back then. I was, the most immature thing I got was like Captain Kangaroo. And that was a lot, and like Mr. Rogers. And they remarked that they didn't talk down to the kids. You talk to them like they're human beings. They're young, they're inexperienced, but they're still, they're grasping. The cartoons I watched was Looney Tunes, okay? Looney Tunes are written for adults. They were in them, shorts that run between features of the theaters. These were, there's very little stuff I watched back then that was explicitly written for little kids, okay? And that's the way you don't baby them, okay? Because if you do that stuff, then they're not challenged and they don't grow, okay? And that's the thing with Star Trek. I never even did a kids version of Star Trek. You see Star Trek, okay? So we might actually squeeze out some kids at some point. No, they're watching the original Star Trek. They're going to be brought up right, okay? Okay, the sense in which Star Trek Discovery has served as a trial run for adapting the Star Trek franchise to the 21st century and failed. Yeah. Admit it, if that was really a success, they'd be shouting those viewing numbers from the rooftops. Instead of, I broke a record. Well, if your record was like, pitiful to begin with, and you're only breaking it by maybe 2 or 3 viewers. Okay. Star Trek Picard will have the same scale as Discovery. Not as much budget until right now because they spent all the money already. And the same kind of modernized approach to storytelling. Meanwhile, it will also be set further forward in the Star Trek timeline than ever before, bar the upcoming Star Trek Discovery Season 3, which gives the show a great deal of narrative freedom. It can set up a brand new status quo, one that isn't overly dependent on knowledge of the past and doesn't rely on decades worth of continuity. Oh, yes, it does. Okay. You're no longer, in the middle of it. You're building on it instead of trying to fit in between it, and that was Discovery's big problem. The perfect way to appeal to new viewers. Yeah, you think. It's easy to see why Patrick Stewart signed up for. Patrick Stewart needed a paycheck, okay? And that sold him as a bit of a challenge. Hey, it's not the same Picard because he would have come back with the same, same guy. Okay, and also noted that Patrick Stewart does not have the greatest creative instincts in the world. Okay, there's been shown some memos, and the fact that the Doom Buggy scene, which we make to make fun of at the minutes, that was Patrick Stewart's idea. He wanted to do the Doom Buggy. He's buds with Iron Man Stewart. Okay, the show has the potential to accomplish something very unique and unite a divided fan base that can appeal to old school Star Trek fans as well as lovers of J.J. Abrams' reboot. It can draw in new viewers while appealing to people who are eager to tune in to see Patrick Stewart's Star Trek Return. This could be just what Star Trek franchise needs. Or it could be the one that kills it off. Let's not mince words here. Star Trek right now is in a very precarious state. And if they muck this up, the only thing we got a chance of maybe saving the thing is Lower Decks. And maybe Tarantino. And that only because the people in charge of those are actual hardcore Star Trek fans who have a feel for the material and what works and what doesn't. a large part, Star Trek is very much like a foreign language. And the people coming in are not native speakers lately. We can tell one of our own when we see them. And we hear them. And they're trying to do stuff like, no. That's right. It's too early for me to go. I've got to get... Another food thing to get. But yeah, this will be critical. If they muck this up, then we can mark the expiration date as 2005 when the end of Enterprise. So, again, Steph is coming out. Going to go over there, do a few more practicing, getting her able to load in the truck and other things. And if everything goes according to plan, she'll be out of there tomorrow and maybe in the next video in some form, annoying us all. So, you want to set his stuff? Captain Robert April, 4046 North Goldenrod Road, number 115, Winter Park, Florida, 32792. I'm currently looking around for it because, again, now it's going to be a place that's off to the races as far as the settlement goes. So I'm looking around for different places. I'm looking at Metropolis, Illinois. There's some nice places there. I've heard Plano, Texas suggested because I got my best friend living down there. And if I can still pull off Colorado, I'm open to that too. I can do something. We're not going to be doing a lot fee on a trailer somewhere. But PayPal, Patreon, etc. down below, and we'll talk at you later.